You are born in 1432 in Edirne. Congratulations. Your dad is the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. Sounds great, right? It is not, because being born into that family means from day one someone somewhere is already thinking about whether you should exist. Welcome to the job. Your dad is Sultan Murad II. And look, he's actually a decent guy, genuinely loves learning, builds mosques, feeds the poor. His nickname is literally the charitable one. Solid dude. But here's the thing about your dad. He has other sons. Sons he likes more than you. And you as a child know this. You can feel it. So naturally you respond to this by becoming the most chaotic, difficult, insufferable child in the palace. Skipping lessons, driving tutors insane, using your royal status to avoid literally every responsibility. Every parent reading this is having a flashback right now. Your dad, God bless him, decides the solution is to find you the strictest teacher in the entire empire. His name is Mola Gurani, and Mola Gurani does not care that you are a prince. Shahzade, do your work. Don't need to, old man. Your father gave me permission to discipline you. You wouldn't dare. Okay, fine. What are we studying? Yeah, it worked. Here's the thing about Mehmed that surprises people. The kid who wouldn't sit still long enough to read a book became one of the most voraciously well read rulers in history. By the time he was 12 years old, he spoke 5 languages fluently: Turkish, Arabic, Persian, Greek, and Latin. Not because he thought it was cool, because he was obsessed with one specific person, Alexander the Great. Mehmed read everything he could find about Alexander: the campaigns, the strategy, the vision. He wanted to be the new Alexander, which honestly, as childhood goals go, shooting for conquer the known world is at least ambitious. Your childhood takes a dark turn when your 2 older brothers die young. Suddenly you're the heir. The one who was too chaotic and difficult to take seriously is now the future of the Ottoman Empire. Your dad handles this the way parents handle unexpected responsibility shifts, by making your life significantly harder. More lessons, more tutors, more training, less goofing off. You are deeply unhappy about this, but also something changes because you finally have a goal, and your goal is Constantinople. At 12 years old, you announce to your tutors that you will conquer Constantinople. Your tutors, that's very ambitious, Shehzade. What they're thinking: this kid is cooked. Constantinople, the city that had been the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire for over 1,000 years, the city that had walls so strong that every army before you had looked at them and gone home. Every conqueror, every sultan, every ambitious general, all of them tried, all of them failed, and you're 12 with a plan. In 1444, your dad does something completely unhinged. He abdicates voluntarily. He's 40 years old and apparently he's tired and wants to read books and think about God. Which, respect, we all have days like that. The problem is that his solution is to hand the empire to you. You are 12 years old. Dad, I'm 12. You'll be fine. Dad, goodbye. Here's what happens when a 12-year-old inherits the largest empire in the region. Everything goes wrong immediately. Balkan states attack Ottoman territory. Rebellions break out in Anatolia. The capital city starts emptying out as people panic. And in the palace, the real power belongs to Grand Vizier Sandarlı Halil Pasha, a man who has been running the empire for decades and who looks at 12-year-old Mehmed the way experienced employees look at a 22-year-old who just became their boss because his dad owns the company, with barely concealed contempt. Sultan, perhaps you should rest. I don't want to rest. I want to run the empire. Of course you do, Sultan. Now drink your milk. Yeah, it's going great. A crusader army forms in Europe to take advantage of the situation. Sandarlı panics and calls your dad out of retirement. Your dad comes back, wins the war, and saves the day. Then Sandarlı tries to convince your dad to take the throne back permanently. Your dad says no, because he actually loves you and believes in you. But the damage is done. Everyone in the empire now knows that when things got hard, they called the dad. You are humiliated, and you remember every single person who was there for it. You are very, very good at remembering. At 19, your dad dies, and this time the throne is yours for real. You ride to the capital as fast as you possibly can. People who remember what happened last time you were Sultan are already nervous. They should be, because you've spent the years since your first reign doing exactly one thing: planning. Your first move as Sultan. You call Sandarlı Halil Pasha, the man who treated you like a child, and you smile at him. You are very polite. You tell him his service to the empire has been noted. You thank him for everything. Then you have him arrested, then executed. The man who had more power than any vizier in Ottoman history. The man who called your dad out of retirement to fix your problems. The man who looked at you like you were a nuisance. Gone. Your first week, welcome to the new management. Here's the detail that makes Mehmed genuinely interesting rather than just terrifying. He didn't want to destroy Constantinople. He wanted to be Constantinople. He saw himself not as the conqueror of the Roman Empire, but as its heir. He studied Roman history obsessively. He called himself Caesar I Rum, Caesar of Rome. The man who ended Byzantine civilization wanted to continue it under a different name, which is either deeply respectful or extremely unhinged, possibly both. You are 21 years old. You bring an army of somewhere between 80,000 and 100,000 soldiers to the walls of Constantinople, the walls that had held for 1,000 years. You also bring something nobody has brought before: the largest cannons in history. You've spent months working with Hungarian cannon maker Urban, who had first offered his services to the Byzantine emperor. The Byzantine emperor said he couldn't afford it. You paid triple. Honestly, the Byzantines had it coming at that point. The siege lasts 53 days. 53 days of cannon fire and assaults and strategy and chaos. At one point, you literally drag your ships overland on greased logs to bypass the chains blocking the harbor. Your enemies see this and assume you've lost your mind. Then the ships are in the water and they realize, no, he's just built differently. On May 29, 1453, Constantinople falls. You are 21. You walk into the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in the Christian world, the building that had stood for nearly 1,000 years, and you stand there quietly. According to some accounts, you recited a verse. According to others, you wept. Both feel true, honestly. You've just done the thing you've been planning since you were 12. What do you even feel in that moment? Here's what Mehmed did immediately after the conquest. He didn't loot the city into rubble. He protected the Greek population. He allowed the Byzantine church to continue functioning. He appointed a new Greek patriarch. He invited scholars, artists, and merchants from across the world to come rebuild the city. He even invited an Italian Renaissance painter named Gentile Bellini to his court. The famous portrait of Mehmed, the one with the hooked nose and the pensive expression. That's Bellini's work. A man who had just conquered Constantinople sat quietly for a portrait painted by a Venetian. He wasn't just building an empire, he was building a world. After the conquest, Mehmed doesn't stop, because of course he doesn't. Serbia, the Aegean Islands, Trebizond, Bosnia, Crimea, the list goes on. 30 years on the throne, 18 major military campaigns personally led. He fights Vlad the Impaler. Yes, that Vlad, the historical inspiration for Dracula, and wins. Vlad loses his throne, spends 12 years in exile, and eventually gets executed. His head gets sent to Istanbul. Mehmed has it put on display. Kazaklu Voivoda, they called him, the impaler. Did he impale anyone at the end? No. Fatih Sultan Mehmed did, but here's the part nobody talks about. Between the campaigns, between the decisions, between managing an empire that now spans 3 continents, Mehmed goes to the garden. He tends plants, he works with precious stones, he makes jewelry by hand, sword scabbards, belt buckles, small, precise work that requires focus and nothing else. He writes poetry under the pen name Avni. The man who claimed to be Caesar of Rome wrote quiet, melancholic poems about the weight of power and the nature of existence, which tells you everything you need to know. The bigger the public life, the more desperately you need something small and private to remind you that you're still a person. Here's the contradiction. Nobody resolves cleanly. Mehmed codified fratricide into Ottoman law. When a new sultan took the throne, it was now legally acceptable, expected even, to execute his brothers. His reasoning: a civil war kills more people than a preemptive execution. The math is cold, the logic is brutal, the outcome is undeniably pragmatic, and it came from a man who gathered Greek scholars at his court, protected religious minorities, and wrote poetry about the fragility of power. History never gives you the clean version of anyone. Mehmed dies in 1481. He's 49 years old. He was preparing another campaign when he fell ill on the road. Nobody knows exactly what he was planning. Some say Italy, some say Egypt. His doctors disagree about what killed him. Some historians, and this part is Revayet, unverified, suggest he may have been poisoned. His son Bayezid takes the throne. Bayezid is gentle, scholarly, cautious, everything Mehmed was not. The same court officials who spent 30 years trying to slow Mehmed down breathed a collective sigh of relief. They'd been exhausted. 18 campaigns in 30 years, 6 languages, a library that included Homer, Ptolemy, and Renaissance geography, handmade jewelry, quiet poems about mortality, an empire that would last another 400 years. That was Mehmed the Conqueror, not the clean version, not the legend, the actual person. A chaotic, difficult, brilliant, ruthless, surprisingly sensitive kid who decided at age 12 that he would be the new Alexander and then just did it. Could you carry what he carried? Or more importantly, could you carry it and still find time to go to the garden? If you made it here, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next live. LoreVox out.